And I just wanted to find Jim Joy's telephone number. He said, oh, he's up there. He's running morale, welfare, recreation for the world, you know, a payoff job with the mob. And he's living outside of Quantico. And here's his phone number. So I call him up. And keep in mind, my husband is infamous. Princeton graduate, chief of staff for Al Gray, who runs all the dirty tricks for the Army. You know, Linda Tripp worked for Carl Steiner, who was a partner of, you know, Jim Joy and Carl Steiner and my husband were the triumvirate in Beirut.
Okay.
And Linda Tripp worked for Carl Steiner down there in the, I think in the 80s. She and her husband were both Delta Force duos. They send them, but then they divorced, so that broke up that. But she's a dirty tricks person, Linda. Anyway, so I call General Joy and I say, General Joy, this is Kay Griggs, and I'm George Griggs' wife, you know, chief of staff under Al Gray, head of half the world, dirty tricks, special operations, wet ops. And he goes, no, I don't believe I know your husband. Exactly his words. And I'm taping it, by the way. Because they took my tape. They started coming in and putting sticky stuff and running my, you know, just mind jagging me on the tapes. And they would put the tapes on different, you know, they would go to a lot of trouble. They would take things that I said on one tape and put it on another. And, I mean, they were having fun with me psychologically. But I taped this conversation with General Joy. And I said, well, that's really strange, General Joy, that you don't know my husband, because I'm sitting here on my bed, and I'm looking at my husband's diary that he kept the whole time he was in Beirut. And you're in there almost on every page, you know, you're in there a lot. And you're going over to Cyprus and Rome, and you're, you know, getting money for weapons, and, you know, and then they're going to Tel Aviv, and they're doing this and that. And you know, I said, you mean you don't know my husband, George Griggs? And you're a Marine, and he's a colonel? He went, oh, that George Griggs. Because he knew I had the diary.
I see.
Then he said, oh, Miss Griggs, let me call you back. Let me call you back. So he had to confer with General Sheehan, General Joy, General Gaiman, General Hartzog, and his little cabal, particularly General Gray and General Krulak. So he called me back, and he was just like a little puppy dog. He said, oh, Miss Griggs, I'm going to be in Norfolk on the, let's see, the night of the 5th, 6th, and 7th. I'll be at a morale, welfare, recreation meeting at the Marriott Hotel, and I would like to meet with you when I get there. You know, I'll be getting in around 5 o'clock, and I could we could go to dinner, or you could come and have breakfast the next morning. We could eat, you know, blah, blah, blah. Or 11 o'clock, you know, now I have to speak at this luncheon engagement. You're welcome to come to that. Or we can meet at. He went through every hour of the whole time. He could not have been more insistent about meeting me if he'd been my father, you know, my birthday or something. But I was afraid of him. Jim Joy, the one who got Noriega out of Panama, he and Sheehan, the one who was behind the whole operation in Panama. This is a powerful guy. He and Carl Steiner, Mutt and Jeff. Waco, they trained all the guys in Waco who went and did what they did to David Koresh. They're the ones behind all the black helicopters and Sheehan. They're the ones, you know, doing all the stuff down there at Kathy McDaniel's down at you know, in Fort Polk. Kathy McDaniels had a little talk show. She's a wife of the daughter of the mayor down there at Fort Polk.
Okay.
The little town outside of Fort Polk. And there were a lot of unusual things happening. And because she was talking about it, excuse me, they took her radio show off the air. And they tried to, it's a long story, but anyway, so General Joy, I got in contact with the NCIS. Yeah. But I met with the NCIS guy and a Marine that I just met cold call, because I was kind of worried about what would happen to me, you know, meeting him in Las Vegas.
Okay.
But, oh, my thing went on in Camp Lejeune before Tailhook, and this is why I got flagged.
Oh.
Because I stopped all the go-go dancers in the officers' clubs, and they got very mad with me.
Oh.
I can tell you that story. It's true. I was just incensed, you know, that they would allow topless women, young girls, in the officers' club dining room while I was trying to eat late one night. And George says, well, you know, you just have to get used to it. If you think this is anything, you ought to see what goes on in Okinawa. Well, this was 91, 90. It was before Tailhook. And the Lord is always with me. Sometimes I don't know where he is, but this particular night, it was about 9 o'clock, and I was starving. And I was really mad because his reaction wasn't, I'm sorry, this is offensive. Do you want to go in town to eat or something? He didn't do that. He attacked me. It was a chance to educate me the way they were educated.
I see.
Get used to it, bitch. You know,
yeah.
Excuse my French.
That's right.
But that's really what he was trying to do. Well, they were all young married officers. Now, I worked at the chamber, and this is taxpayer money. This looks bad. They had, you know, wedding bands on. And one of the guys, two of the guys goes out with one of the girls. So I'm going, after having said, don't you see anything wrong with this picture? And getting no background. I thought, oh, boy, I've got a camera in my pocketbook. I am going to see Marty and Oogie, my old roommate from St. Mary's, little Episcopal Junior College in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I said, whoa, little Lucille Ball comes out. And I just kind of grabbed that little camera with the flash, and I get me 3 little flashes of scattering people. But there were still some men in there, you see, and 2 of the girls. And they were looking at me like, you are, the girls were probably thinking, oh, you know, but the guys, they saw older colonel, chief of staff here, wife. It was bad from the perspective of me being a wife, witnessing this, being ordered to shut up. So I took the wrestler, you know, and I don't know anything about holds, but I knew this was self-preservation time. And I just said, well, I'm going to the ladies' room.
Yeah.
So I went to the ladies' room, and I hid the darn thing. And he wanted to know where it was. We had a major battle. But the